Hey there, Postal here. So today we're taking out the MiG-15. This is actually a plane that I don't play all that often. Just a second here. But I thought it'd be a dang good time to take it out, considering it looks like there's going to be discounts. I'm recording this on Wednesday, but it'll be posting on Thursday. And there should be some pretty hefty, nice, nifty discounts on this whole entire, well, from Tier 5 and above on this line. And there's some very good planes on this line, to be honest. All the odd-tiered planes are very, very good. Like, no questions asked, no doubt. MiG-3, the I-220, and the MiG-9. Excellent, excellent planes. And a lot of people's favorites at those tier, to be honest. The MiG-3s are a great one at Tier 5. I-220 is probably my favorite Tier 7 fighter in the game. Just excellent, well-balanced. I'm sure wish I knew what I was doing with my guns here. And the MiG-9 is just awesome plane. Very, very strong plane for Tier 9. And then again, you can say that about almost every single Tier 9 plane. Almost all of them are very strong. But I absolutely love those planes. The even-numbered planes, not nearly as consistent. The Tier 6 might be one of the worst Tier 6s in the game. It's at least one of the most frustrating. We'll leave it at that. The Tier 8 is just meh. It's got some good points, it's got some bad points. It is what it is. And then you've got the Tier 10 here. Tier 10 can be very, very strong. What do you got going on here? Well, we've got two 23mm cannons. But what's doing the majority of our chunk damage here is going to be our 37mm cannon. You can hear it, you can feel it, doing the lion's share of the damage here. A very similar setup to the Tier 9, right? Yep. Got an assist there. I haven't maximized this plane. It's still a good plane, but I haven't specialized it. I certainly haven't added the ultimate equipment or anything like that. I just, in fact, upgraded it to improve. And I'll show you my setup on this particular plane afterwards. This is a Yak-19 I'm about to go after. The only reason I'm really going after it is because it's on super low health. Otherwise, it would be suicide. The MiG-15 is not a turn fighter at all. In fact, it's more of an altitude fighter. Don't ask me why I'm at super low altitude right now. I'm at super low altitude because this guy's at super low altitude. But your 37mm cannon can definitely do some. If I could not crash. Oh my goodness, seriously? I was not expecting that. The 37mm cannon can definitely do some major work on ground attackers. Let's get back to the center. That's thoroughly annoying. I was not expecting to crash there. Yeah, this plane really excels at the high altitude. I just haven't had the opportunity to use the high altitude yet. We'll get back over there. Yeah, we'll be fine. You can see I'm already at 8,000 feet, so what is it going to be, like 2,500 meters or so? No issue at all. Multi-rolls should not be up here. What are you doing up here, sir? A lot higher than you want to be. Go. If I'm in the yellow, then he is definitely in the yellow, if not the red. You can tell just because he's a multi-roll, right? Multi-roll altitude performance is significantly worse. Let's go ahead and get our guns on target here. Obviously, I'm not doing all that well when it comes to my accuracy here. you want to make sure that you are aiming far enough out when it comes to your main cannon, especially your 37mm cannon. It's slow gun. Projectiles that come out of it are slow, so you need to make sure that you're aiming properly ahead. There we go. Yak 15 again, Yak 15, Yak 19 again. Again, I really don't want to mess with him just because he can turn and I can't. Let's use our speed. Man, both the enemy fighters are turnies, huh? But luckily one of them's a Key 162. You hit him once with a 37mm cannon and he will definitely lose an engine. Just no questions asked. Alright, let's go ahead and work on this garrison if we can. You'll notice I don't do a lot of turn fighting. He says as he turns. I turn when I know it's appropriate, and what I mean by that is because the MiG-15's maneuverability is pretty piss poor, I don't get myself into turn fights. Let's go ahead and get this. Oh, never mind, somebody else got this. Go for this F2H. It's going to help me go over to the mining facility as well. Go, move on to the mining facility. If we can. Get that guy. Some help getting this guy. No! Well, at least it didn't crash this time. F3 button. Seriously, this plane really wants to hit the ground. Alright, so we got rid of him. We need to get somebody besides me to get that sector, because I certainly cannot. Key 162, let's see what we can do versus him. I definitely have the altitude performance over him. And he's got to already be, if I'm in the yellow, he's almost certainly getting close to the red. Key 162, unlike the tier 8, tier 9 and tier 10 lose a lot of altitude performance. Let's stay up here where the Seahawk is, use our altitude to hopefully get ourselves a advantage. Over. Watch what's inbound, some more multi-rolls. Go, that's fine. Let's get this guy first. Cameron. Knocked out his engine. And big, if you just need to get the big 37mm cannon to hit, if you can do that, good things will happen. Again, I don't have this plane maximized, but if I was setting up my plane, you want to set it up for accuracy, you want to set it up for the ability to just use this ridiculous cannon. There you go. A better game than I thought I would have, considering I'm not always overly comfortable in this plane. I'm much more comfortable in the tier 9, but we'll get into explaining that back in the hangar. Let's go. Alright, so we were able to get 18 kills, which seems to be my mantra recently. 8,000 damage to aerial targets. A lot of crits, as you can see. It just gets crits. I mean, you've got 37mm cannon. That's what it does, right? But to be honest, I know there's more to this plane. This game is kind of an odd duck game, to be honest. I was pretty down low. Just wasn't able to take advantage of being... This guy's always quitting. Why is this guy always quitting? I don't understand. I was able to do what needed to be done in this game, but I didn't really have any competition in the air, right? Obviously, we had 2 enemy ground attackers. And so in that kind of situation, the focus is on the multi-rolls more than anything else. The Yak-19 and the Ki-162 just aren't going to be viable threats to my plane if I play it right. The MiG-15, if you're comparing this plane to any other plane, it's just not nearly as maneuverable. You've got the Swift here, which obviously I've maximized as much as I can. Has a little bit more maneuverability, and has a lot less altitude performance. That's something that you're going to notice with this plane. The altitude performance, again, I didn't use it very much in this battle, but it's something you want to be aware of, and it's something you want to rely on. Because there's only one other plane in this game, one other fighter, I should say, that really has the altitude performance of the MiG, and that's going to be the F-86. The F-86 and the MiG-15, basically the same altitude performance. The 252 might have good altitude performance, but nobody plays this piece of crap. No, it doesn't have good altitude performance. Good. So yeah, the MiG and the F-86 are really the cream of the crop when it comes to altitude performance. The fact of the matter is, though, your base airspeed on the MiG-15 starts out better than your base airspeed on the F-86. My F-86, once the pilot is in here, is mid to upper 90s across the board for speed and maneuverability. Obviously, I don't have that yet on my MiG. I have a, 7-point pilot? 8-point pilot? Whatever it is, that I've built up, putting it on, playing it on my pilot on some premium planes. But the plane itself is not built up, and we'll go into detail on that in just a minute. But the base airspeed as high as this plane has, once I've specialized this plane, I don't see any reason why it can't be at 100, maybe even higher on the overall airspeed. Yeah, you're going to be lacking a little bit on maneuver. Well, not even a little bit. You're going to be lacking on maneuverability. But you're going to find a balance to that. And I'll show you with the setup that I've got here. I was speaking about the MiG. I want to touch really quick on the MiG-9. The MiG-9 is an excellent... Hello. Where are you? There you are. An excellent Tier 9 light fighter. Just absolutely wonderful. You can see the airspeed I've already got basically to the same level as the Tier 10 has. Maneuverability is going to be significantly less. But I've built this plane for speed. And the combination of the 37mm cannon and the two 23mm cannons does a lot of heavy lifting at Tier 9. At Tier 10, obviously, doesn't have quite the same oomph as far as the guns are concerned. Yeah, it's the same gun setup, but now you're at Tier 10, so you've got a lot more. There's a lot more hit points on the ground attackers, a lot more hit points on the bombers, heck, a lot more hit points on the heavy fighters. And so, although this gun setup is excellent, it's not doesn't have the same tier for tier impact that the Tier 9 has, just because Tier 9 is going to run into a bunch of Tier 8s that it can just melt through. Not to say that the Tier 10's gun setup is poor by any means, just kind of laying down the differences there. So, like I said, I've got this. This is an 8-point pilot. I've got my pilot set up for accuracy. First thing I went for, honestly, before I did anything else in the MiG-15, and I recommend this in the MiG-9 as well, may even be viable for the I-250 at Tier 8, is the Marksman 2. Getting the 37mm cannon to start hitting targets, especially maneuvering targets, makes a huge difference in the outcome of the game. Getting this 37mm cannon on target obviously is knocking down hit points, but it's also knocking out wings, knocking out tails, knocking out engines, knocking out pilots, and that has even more impact on the game than the hit points. It's also got a psychological advantage. If you're taking 2/3 of a fighter's hit points away in one hit, a lot of pilots are going to be freaking out, and so you're going to be able to start taking advantage of the huge cannon on this by going for Marksman 2 first. Yeah, it's an investment of 5 points, but it's not a bad investment at all. After that, I've gone with aerodynamics expert. So aerodynamics expert is going to help anything that helps aircraft speed and maneuverability. And as I'm going to show you here, I've got a little bit of both of those. This skill, this universal skill, is really good for literally any aircraft where you've got 2 or more speed or maneuverability equipment slots used. It's a huge buff, and once you've got 3 or 4 equipment slots used for speed and maneuverability, it's basically overpowered. As far as the equipment setup is concerned, again, this is not specialized plane. So your 3 equipment slots that are available are going to be for the cockpit, the airframe, and the engine. For the cockpit, I want, again, maximize my accuracy. I've put a gyroscopic sight on here. I just improved it before this game. And the bonus characteristics, a chance of inflicting critical damage, which is great. Your critical damage chance is pretty high anyway with the cannon types that you have. Improving that and improving the accuracy is going to be incredibly helpful. So the next thing I've done here is I wanted to add some maneuverability to this plane and some speed. And so the way that I did this is I used the lightweight wing frame and the uprated engine. And the reason I did this is because I'm not specialized planes, so I don't have a lot of flexibility when it comes to over maxing my metrics. I didn't want to put, so what some people do is they'll put polished skin here, and then they'll put lightweight and power unit here. The problem with that is the polished skin, yeah, it adds to airspeed, but it also takes away from maneuverability, and I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to add something that added airspeed, but didn't take away from maneuverability. Yeah, my resistance to fire goes down, but I don't really have an issue with that on the MiGs. It's not like the Yaks. The Yak light fighters tend to catch on fire. The MiGs, they do, but they don't. It's not a super big issue. So the adding airspeed with the improved uprated engine doesn't take away from maneuverability. And the adding maneuverability with the lightweight wing frames doesn't take away from airspeed. And so that was really key to my initial setup here. Since I'm not specialized and I can't just put 4 things in the equipment slots, I didn't want to use equipment that was going to be a detriment to other metrics. I hope that makes sense. As far as consumables are concerned, on my fighters, I'm always putting first aid. Well, not always. 99.9% of the time, I'm putting the first aid kit. Again, this plane just doesn't catch on fire all that often, and if it did, I still wouldn't use first aid kit. I would take one of my skill points. In fact, I've got one available. I would take it and I would make it as firefighter. Firefighter extinguishes the fire by actively maneuvering. Basically, by getting into a dogfight, you put the fire out. Takes 2 seconds and you're done. And that way, all you need is the pilot in there. You don't need to waste this consumable on a fire extinguisher. You can use it for putting your pilot back in, and you can also use it to put your pilot back in if you're not on fire and you just want better accuracy. As far as airframe, I'm in a fighter, so I'm going to use pneumatic control assist. For this one, I do have engine cooling. It tends to help with this plane just because it's such a fast plane. You want to always have your speed up. If for some reason you are turning a little bit and you need to get out of that and you need to get some speed, engine cooling is going to help that. I use universal ammo. I've got lots of credits to burn though, and so universal ammo is not necessarily a detriment to me. If we look here, repairs and service cost 30,000 credits. I made 96,000 credits, so I still made 66,000 credits, so I didn't lose credits anyway. So universal ammo for my playstyle and my skill level is a viable option when it comes to my ammunition. As far as additional equipment is concerned, once I specialize it, forward-firing weapon, that could really be anything. Besides gas-operated action, and I'll show why in just a second, I'm either going to be using reinforced bolt carriers or I'm going to be using the long-range gun barrels. Probably reinforced bolt carriers just to get my guns firing for a longer amount of time. You saw that they overheat very quickly. Reinforced bolt carriers might be able to help with that, but I'll experiment. As far as my additional engine equipment slot is concerned, I will almost certainly use combined injection boost. At least initially. We'll see. I don't want to make my speed so ridiculously fast that is actually a burden to where I'm slowing down more than I want to, or where there's only like once every few battles where my excessive speed is really helpful. If I find that to be, you know, it's just too much speed, I'll put lightweight power unit on here and help me get my maneuverability up, so I can really, you know, outduel and dogfight when I want to. And so that might be the initial way to go, is lightweight power unit. And as far as the engine extra consumable is concerned, I'm almost certainly going to be using improved mixture control. I don't get my engine knocked out very often in this plane, so I don't feel the need for manual engine restart. And so improved mixture control is almost certainly the way I'm going to go, so that way I can get additional speed. I like speed. Here's your plane setup. You've got your two 23mm cannons. These are the same 23mm cannons that you have on all your Tier 10 Soviet fighters. This plane has 2 of them instead of 3, but instead of that third one, you've got this awesome 37mm cannon. It's relatively short range. It's certainly shorter range than the 23mm cannons, but it's not like 1,800 feet short range. So, you know, it's on the shorter end, but it's not ridiculously short range. And so you can reach out and touch people with your awesome heavy-duty cannon here. And so, yeah, this plane is the culmination of the tech line that is going to be readily available on the cheap starting tomorrow. I guess today if you're watching this video. The discounts are from the MiG-3 to the MiG-15. But I can tell you that the multi-rolls and the I-17 that lead to this are all good planes as well. I kept the I-16E. It's an absolutely wonderful Tier 3 multi-roll. I-17 is more of a yak than it is a MiG, but it kind of bridges the two. And then, like I said before, you've got a lot of solid planes on this. You've got a lot of turd planes too. And like I said, the I-250 is just kind of meh. But things like the... Let's go ahead and take a quick look here. Things like the MiG-3, one of my favorite planes at Tier 5, easily. I know the Bf-109E gets a lot of credit, and rightfully so, as a great Tier 5 fighter. MiG-3 is right there with it, to be honest. I don't have a great pilot on it, but I still really enjoy this particular plane. It's a lot of fun. Good solid gun mix. You've got 5 overall machine guns, good altitude performance, reasonable maneuverability, and good airspeed. Tier 6 is it's mediocre at best. I-210. I don't have it. I need to buy it back because somebody requested it because they're trolling me, but hey, I'm going to make a video on it. I-210 has 2 really weak guns. You got good altitude performance, reasonable maneuverability, and reasonable airspeed, but the guns really let it down. It kind of reminds me of a Tier 6 version of the Model 81A that I just posted a video on. I-220, though, at Tier 7... Suddenly you go to like the best Tier 7 fighter, in my opinion. Great altitude performance, great airspeed, reasonable maneuverability. Remember, these are all quote-unquote altitude fighters, but these, the MiG line has reasonable maneuverability that you don't really get on the British, on the German, and you especially don't get it on the American until higher up. So the I-220's got a lot of flexibility that things like the Bf-109G and the P-51D don't quite have. You got good guns set up on this particular plane as well when you've got 4 20mm cannons, and even more importantly, they're all centrally located. So your accuracy is going to be pretty good compared to some other planes that have their guns on the wings. Tier 8 is the I-250. Now the I-250 isn't a bad plane. I didn't keep it, but it's not necessarily a terrible plane. You do have a 37mm cannon on this. It's pretty short range, 2,000 feet. You got 2 23mm cannons. They're not the Tier 9 and Tier 10 23mm cannons, but they are pretty strong. And you actually, if I remember correctly, I think you've got I think there's actually a rocket on the back of this engine here. I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I played it, so don't necessarily quote me on that. I think it has your normal engine, and then it has an actual like rocket booster in the back. It helps a little bit. And so yeah, the I-250, it's okay. I'm gonna buy it back when it's on discount today, as you're watching this. But it sets you up pretty well for the MiG-9. The I-250, what I think it really does lack in airspeed. Yeah, it's got that extra boost, but the overall airspeed is kind of a disappointment considering the I-220 has really good airspeed for its tier, and the I-250 is lackluster. But it's made up for by this MiG-9, which I've spoken to before. Yeah, the MiG-9 kind of looks a little odd, but it's a really good plane. My plane only has a... and actually, I need to change this out. I need to change this to the Marksman 2 and then start working on this. That's how important it is to get your heavy-duty cannon on target and make sure that it's hitting its target. MiG-9, one of my favorite, honestly, just one of my favorite tier 9s in the game. And that's saying something because there are a lot of really good tier 9s in the game. And then, of course, you end on the, in my opinion, as an American, one of the more quintessential Soviet planes of that era. We always think back to, F-86s versus MiG-15s, dogfighting kind of situations. So, as this being an enemy plane, this was one of those planes that was certainly spoken about and on my historical radar. In game, it's a pretty darn fun plane, and I gotta say this line is definitely worth the grind. Whether or not you get all the way to tier 10 in the time frame that the discounts are going on, it's still worth the grind. This is only going to be from the 22nd through the 26th, so just over the weekend, not a lot of time. If you're in the lower tiers, you might be able to get 2 or maybe even 3 tiers if you're seriously grinding them. Tier 5 through tier 7 are all 50% off. That's incredible. That's a great discount. But even more bottom line credits earned, you're going to be able to save 30% on your tier 8 through tier 10. So if you can just get even just one extra tier, you're saving credits, right? But if you can try to grind and get a couple extra tiers, if you're at tier 5, get yourself up to tier 7 or maybe tier 8. If you're at tier 8, get yourself to tier 9. It's definitely worth it. Now's the time. Now's honestly the time if you were grinding this line and you weren't really liking it. Now's the time to really grind it and get past the plane that you're not liking, because I'm willing to bet the next plane is probably going to be something very, very good. On top of that, you're also going to be able to get additional battle experience on this entire tech tree line during this time frame. And you can win some extra rewards, a collimator sight for period 2, an advanced gyroscopic sight for period 3. And so you can really grind this very quickly. If you're going to be able to get 50% battle experience anytime that you earn 6,000 personal points or more in one of these planes, you're going to get an extra 50% experience. You're going to be able to fly up this line. And, you should be able to get at least one tier higher, and I highly encourage you. If you're not going to be grinding this line, there is also a mission to be able to earn 25% more credits if you destroy 3 Soviet fighters in a single battle. It doesn't specify that it has to be one of these fighters either. So it can be literally any of the Lavochkins, any of the Yaks, any of the MiGs. And I'm assuming anything that's a premium Soviet fighter as well. So take advantage of it over this weekend. This line has some duds, but it's got some real gems as well, and I highly encourage that you take advantage of the discounts. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. If you have some of these planes, do you enjoy them, or do you have a favorite of the line? Did you go down the line and you just, I'm staying with the MiG-3 because it's so awesome? Do you agree with me about the I-210 and the I-250? Are they meh to poor, or is this something that you found enjoyable? I'd love to hear your responses. You can also feel free to reach out to me in my Discord channel. The link is in the description below. And otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.